Should be okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, perfect. So yeah, let me begin again. Sorry. Yeah, Welcome to BIMAX second colloquium talk. Today's speaker is Luonan Chen from Chinese Academy of Sciences. As far as I know, he's the #1 world expertise for this dynamics-based data science. Majority of you are familiar with all this, some machine learning or statistics things, but to understand the biology, we have to add a time, basically dynamics. And Luonan Chen has developed so many good methods and algorithm to analyze the dynamic data from the biology. So let's welcome today's speaker.
Thank you. Thank you for a nice introduction. Also, thanks for the GI for the invitation. Before I give a talk, I want to show my area of my lab. You know, I mainly work on the computational system biology, including 3 parts. The one part is bioinformatics. So in this area, my group have many people on the sequence analysis, you know, RNA, DNA sequence analysis, or integration, omics data integration. Another area is nonlinear dynamics, just mentioned by the GI. We are quite interested for the many complex phenomena in the biology. So recently, I'm more interested in the machine learning. I want to combine the dynamics with the machine learning to develop new methodologies. So today, I show our recent focus is I call the dynamics-based data science, which is we consider is different from the traditional statistical-based data science. So I will show why it's different. What's the new methodology we can develop based on the dynamic theory. They are my group is we believe there are at least 3 parts we can make a different from traditional statistical data science. The one is prediction, and today I will show a little bit of prediction, which means we want to use the explore a very special feature of the nonlinear dynamics is which is attractor is usually a low dimension, and so based on this feature, we can transform the spatial high dimensional spatial information into the temporal information, so we can make the short-term time series data prediction. And the second part is we call the detecting critical state, a tipping point. And so it's in this part we want to explore the low dimensionality of the center manifold just before the bifurcation, local bifurcation. So if we can explore such a generic feature, so we can detect the tipping point even before the state transition. So this is our DNB theory. The third part is we call the causal inference. So it's also a very important topic. And for this part, we will explore the delay embedding theory. So we want to reconstruct the phase space by a single variable. Then from the reconstructed spaces of the 2 variables, we can infer their causal inference, a causal relation. So it's also very important because causality is always the important topic in the for the science. Okay, so that's one I call, we want to move from the statistical-based data science to the dynamics-based data science. Recently, I just write a short perspective invited by this journal. So I write the name is this one, Dynamics-based data science in biology. So I show 3 areas, but this one is based is a diffusion map theory. It's not a ODE based approach. Okay. Anyway, so I first like share our recent work, which is I want to I want to predict the future. Future prediction is always exciting topic. And here we want to, as mentioned, we want to transform high-dimensional spatial information into the temporal information, so we can predict the future. It's the first one. Time series data prediction. If we have a long-term data like this one, if we have a very long-term data, then we can find a statistical pattern. As far as up here, we know it's going to be here. So we can make a prediction. So there are so many approaches, regression approach, machine learning approach, deep learning. There are so many approaches because we have statistical patterns. We learn the knowledges. But the problem is that we only have a few time points or only observe a very few time points. There's not any statistical pattern. And for such data, we consider it's unpredictable because we have so little, a few knowledges. But for such data, they are really widely available, for our area, like for the gene sequence data, microarray data, annual data, even stock market data we consider is a short term. I will show you why stock market data is the short term. Anyway,
very interesting in stock market data, I think.
I will if you ask question, I will show you why it's short. Anyway, the short-term high-dimension data is really widely available. So far, we focus on the long-term data, right? We have electronic data. Just Jar mentioned you have a variable like the watch. If you wear a watch, you can get long-term data. This really is available. But for short-term data, short high-dimensional data, this is say long-term data. We have a few variables that we recorded very long time. But as I mentioned, we have another type of data we call the short-term high-dimensional data. We only have a few time points, but it's a high-dimensional. We know the entropy. Entropy, if we consider information content, these two types of data actually is very similar. We can have, we use the, if we consider coding, we use the similar coding can achieve, record this data. So their information content is quite similar. But the data form is very different. It's a long-term, it's a short-term. Here is not statistical pattern, but here we can get a statistical pattern. We can make a prediction. This is the unpredictable. But if we can turn this data in this way, you can see the red part is the future. So but certainly we cannot do it in a heuristic manner. We need a mathematical way to turn this data, short-term data in this way, so we can make the prediction of the future. So that is a conceptual illustration. So we called, we need transform spatial, high-dimensional spatial information into the temporal information. Then we can get the future. Here, before I talk the detail, the mathematical details, I also want to show what's the difference from the current the deep learning. Deep learning like the is really achieved a great success. Recently, like the AlphaGo, they really they win the human. So, but the problem is that, but I think there is the problem. Problem is that deep learning require they have required to experience all the behaviors. For the AlphaGo, he trained by the 30-40 million games, right? So they almost experienced all the behaviors, so they can make the correct, decision. But the human, we cannot experience all the behaviors. We only use a very, small number data. A limited data to make the correct prediction. So that is intelligent. And for this case, we only observe a very limited data, local behavior, but we want to predict the behavior unexperienced here. So that's why we can say, deep learning may not be make it. So that is when we may can win the deep learning. So predict the future, and back to the future. Actually, I almost is a conjugate, equivalent from the mathematical viewpoint. I will show later. So, which means that if you lost data, I can trace back. Retrace that data. Okay, so let me show the theoretical part. Before we make the prediction, the theoretical foundation is the Tegan's delay embedding theory. I will show later. This is a complex system like the biological system. We have 20,000 genes, so more proteins. So it's very complicated. They have a very complicated behavior, like the circadian rhythm is also complicated. We don't know this system, but we want to know. So what we can do is we observe a variable like the heartbeat or temperature, any or gene expression. We just observe one variable, a long-term variable. Okay, so that is available. This data is variable. We take only take one variable to observe. So from here, then we can do the embedding. This is the embedding. We use the same data, exactly same data, just to delay a little bit. Then we get the high dimensional data from a 1 dimension to high dimension. Here we get many time points, but they become high dimension, short and high dimension. So from here, we further put this data into the phase space, Z1, Z2, Z3. Then we get a phase space. We get another attractor, dynamics. So this is dynamics. This dynamics is available because we from this constructed from this available data. So we know this dynamics exactly. But we really want to know this unknown system. This is the biological system. It's very complicated. We want to know this one, but we get this one. So we want to know the relation of these two attractors. So from Tegan's delay embedding theory, we can prove actually this two system, this two attractor is equivalent, which means that there is a function can mapping this one point to the 1 point here to here, one by one. So this is so which means we to summarize this, the process is we from a long-term low dimensional data reconstruct the the phase space, whole phase space. Then we are going to the reverse. we from this the short high dimensional data to return to the long term short low dimensional data, which means the prediction. Okay, so this is the illustration. Then, sorry, I have to talk a little bit of mathematics. Now we go to the easy part. Then, before I show our theory, I need to talk a little bit of history about the embedding. I don't know why here. The embedding is widely used in the machine learning area. So we can trace back to the 1936 and first raised by the mathematician he called Whitney, and he proved a manifold dimension a manifold can be represented, can be say extend represented by the 2D plus 1 Euclidean space. So that is a very important work, but it's very difficult to use. So until 1981, Higgins, his milestone work, he showed only used one variable. He can reconstruct this manifold, then further represented by the 2D plus 1 Euclidean space. So that is we consider is a milestone work. After that, so many people working on this area for the data analysis. I mean, time series data analysis. So in 1991, Sowell further optimized this theory to the attractor. It's not a manifold for attractor. 2D DA is the attract dimension of the attractor. Then Robinson in 2005, they further extended the dynamic system to the infinity space, as far as the attractor is a low dimension. Okay, so we showed the delay embedding theory. Higgins in 1981, he showed we have a nonlinear dynamic system. It's a high dimensional. It's a high dimension. Rn is a high dimensional system. But it's on the manifold. Then we get the one observation variable. We call it y. It's one dimension. We just observe one dimension. So then we from this one dimension we can construct that. We use the delay construct the high dimension. We call it h. Then from by such a construction, we can prove. Higgins proof. Yeah, the x to the embedded space, they are corresponding one by one each by this function h. Okay, so that is a delay embedding theory. So briefly summarize this theory is that we have a high dimensional nonlinear dynamic system. It's called this one. Then they actually they run in the steady state on on manifold. Their constraint on manifold is a low dimension. So this manifold can be represented by the 2D plus 1 Euclidean space. So we can analyze, predict this nonlinear system using this in the Euclidean space, which is easily used by by us. Okay, sorry, a little bit difficult stuff, but I think it's better to show a theoretical part. This is a sufficient condition, which means that even these conditions are not satisfied, this still work. Okay, so I'm not sure. You're familiar with the Kalman filter. So I also want to point, without model in this work, we don't need a model. We only need the data. A single variable can topologically reconstruct the original attractor, of the whole system. But with the model, Kalman filter actually can reconstruct the original dynamics. So it's a difference is here we don't want, if you have a model, you better use the Kalman filter. But you don't have a model, just use the tagging theory. So it's a difference in this one. Okay, I show the history of the nonlinear time series analysis, and then I need to show our work. Okay, we are going to construct our theory. This is say original system, biological system is very high dimensional, 20,000 genes. So we consider it 20,000 dimension is unknown for us, as mentioned earlier. And then we use the RNA sequence. We just sequence data, take a blood, take a tissue. Then we can, this is the gene 1 to gene 20,000. So we have 20,000 variable. Then time point 1, time point 2, we get a 20 point, we get a 20 time point. Yeah, we got it's a short term, 20 each hour. If we studied like the Joy studied the circadian rhythm, we just observe 20 time point. Okay, 1 hour, 1 time point. So that is available for us because we right now we have a high throughput technology. But we only interested for variable like the clock. Maybe I forgot what is the important gene for the circadian rhythm. Like they have a field. The team is important, right? I think a team. If we focus on team, then we take this data. We just only use the team. As XK is the team. We have 24 time point. Now, as mentioned, we use the delay embedding. We lift the one variable into the high dimensional system. So we just use the delay embedding. We just delay. Then we get another attractor in the high dimensional system. Okay. And then we are going to another way. We take 100 variable here, including team, and we randomly take. You can randomly, because we have 20,000 variable genes. We just take 100 genes. Then without any embedding, we just simply put it into the high dimensional space. We got another attractor. So this is we call the non-delay attractor. This is called the delay attractor. So this attractor is artificially constructed by us. So now we get 2 attractor. This 2 attractor, based on the embedding theory, we can prove they are equivalent. They are equivalent, which means there is a function, nonlinear function phi can map the 1 point here to 1 point here, 1 by 1. So that is important reconstruct the space for us. Okay, to summarize, 1 by 1 projection between the delay attractor and non-delay attractor. With these 2 delay attractor, we are going to make the prediction. This is the non-delay attractor. This is delay attractor. And non-delay attractor, as mentioned, we have a 20,000 gene. We randomly take the 100 gene. You can 1,000 is fine. You can only you can even use the 20,000 gene itself. This is the gene 1, gene 2, gene 100. So this time point 1, time point 2, time point 24. So it's 1 day. TM is 24. M is 24. So we have a 24 time point. But here we focus on the team, gene team. So it's only 1 variable, but it's a time point 1, time point 2, time point 10. Okay. Then with second point is time point 2 to time point 11. The third time point is time point 3 to time point 12. So we are going to get another 24 time point. So TM is 24 time point, but only this is only 1 variable. It's important is 1 variable. Here is the 100 variable. Okay, so we construct the 2 attractor. delay attractor, we have a 24 time point. Here is a non-delay attractor is 24 time point. So our theory tells us there is a nonlinear function mapped this point to this point. On same function mapped this point to this point. The same function mapped this one to this one. The same function mapped this one to this one. Okay, and then this is our theoretical part. But here I also want to stress, 24 time point is available for us. We already know this data. But here, 25, M is 24. But you can see that here we found that 25, M plus 1 is 25, M plus 2 is 26. So this is the future. This is the future. We already know the T, M. Until M is available for us, 24. But in this matrix, we found the future value of the T. Okay, which means if we can find this mapping, this map phi, then we can immediately get the future of the T. Okay, so that is the prediction. So this is the whole theoretical part. In other words, we build a theory. This theory is not an approximation. So far, we don't have any approximation. They can be ensured by the nonlinear dynamic theory. As far we can find this map, then we can make the prediction. So then how we can find phi? This is nonlinear. So we need some mathematics to solve them. The simple way is the phi. We use the linear. We use the linear map. We just make approximation. The linear part is very easy. Use matrix A represent the phi, right? So this is the phi. This is the this matrix here. So it's here. This the matrix A is a variable. Is an unknown. This is the future value is unknown. All other is available. Okay. So if we solve the linear equation, then we can make the prediction. We can get this phi, linear map phi, and also this future value of the team. I mean the variable. So this is a linear equation. Actually, it's a linear equation. It's very easy to solve. We can prove the condition for the unique solution as far as data is clear. So, but so here is I also want to make a point is we use the single mathematical equation to link the past with the future because this is the past, this is the future. So this is a spatial information. This is the temporal information. So that is our spatial temporal information transformation. But this equation is very easy to solve. But unfortunately, the linear map is is not accurate. You cannot make an accurate prediction. Okay. Here also is so we call this equation is a spatial temporal information transformation. So I call the STI equation, STI, spatial temporal information transformation. So to summarize the result is a theoretical result is we have a spatial information is X 2030 gene. We have a temporal information is one variable. I think there's a noise. Okay, and so it's we show there is a map to map the spatial information into temporal information. So that is we call the primary STI equation, and because it's an equivalent, topologically equivalent, Y can be also mapped back to the X. So we get another, we call the conjugate STI equation. So these two equations, we call the map is 1-to-1. So we get a pair equations. So if we solve this equation, we get the future of the y. So we came back to the, this is for our original theory, STI equations. But as I show you, we can use linearized STI equation can be easily solved, this problem. So we linearize the phi as A, linearize this phi as the B matrix, and so we can solve this linearized equations. But this one is not a, accuracy is problem. It's not accurate because the linear, our system is only nonlinear. So then we are going to improve the linear system, because this linear system is very easy to solve. So we, but it's an accuracy problem. But we can make a compromise this issue. So we use the neural network. Here is we don't use the x. X is available variable, available data, gene expression data. We use the neural network. Neural network is f. F is nonlinear. We just represent x with the neural network. So x is a neural network. And then here, A and B matrix is a map, is a variable, is unknown. X is available, Y, partial Y is unavailable. Most of Y is available. So F, we are going to, F is the neural network. Traditional, we have the trained neural network is unavailable. But here, we use a different way. With neural network is randomly given. We randomly, the weighting, all the weighting is randomly given. So available only A and B and Y. Okay, so we call the auto reservoir neural network, ARNN. Auto reservoir. Here is right. Auto reservoir neural network, ARNN. So this neural network is as mentioned, the structure is this one. We have an input X is a gene expression. We have Y is a team, is a future. Some part is available. Then we have a neural network. A neural network, the weighting is randomly given. So with this structure, we can solve this equation. Then we found out the prediction is very good. They give very good prediction. This one is very difficult to solve. And we can use the neural network to represent them, but still training data, you need many training data. But the linear part is easy, but the accuracy is, it's not accurate. But so, this one.
Luonan, I have a quick question. So for all this randomly, for all this random neural network, you find a single A or the best?
Yeah, I will share you later. Randomly given, the A and B are changed a little bit. Yeah. They really depending on the neural network. Right. They change a bit. Yeah.
So you find many different A and B depending on the. Yeah.
Right. But you don't need as far as network F is randomly given, you fix them. You don't need to change it anymore.
I see. Okay.
So, and I will show you why we use the randomly. It's a reservoir computing. We borrow this concept from the reservoir computing. Then before I show the reservoir computing, I also want to show, it's a similar, you can see it's quite similar like the autoencoder, from here to here, from here to here. So I also show what's the difference from the autoencoder. Use the same structure, our STI equation. this is it's the same like from X to Y, now Y back to X. But we don't use the autoencoder. Our ARN auto reservoir form is from Fx to Y, then back to Fx. Fx is a neural network. So X to neural network, X to neural network. So the Fx to, reduce to Y, compress, feature space is Y, then back to the original space. It's not the original, it's a neural network space. So it's a different, I just want to stress it's different from the autoencoder, and even in the form, because we use these equations. And so it's we get the high dimensional data. Then the output is a temporal vector. Yeah, so it's a spatial temporal information transformation. Okay, so that is whole the theoretical part. The neural network is randomly given, as mentioned, is randomly given. As far you give, and you don't need to change them. Then you just train A and B. Just train A and B. Then we get the future data. So for the reservoir computing, I'm not sure you are familiar with the reservoir computing. It's quite popular recently, and I will maybe I will share later. I assume you already know the reservoir computing. If you are not familiar, I will share later. Then we are going to make the data analysis. We are going to show if we can predict the future. This is a high dimensional data. It's a 20 to 20. It's a 400 variable, and then we observe data, make a prediction. This is gene expression. Is a circadian rhythm. We have a 22 time point. So every 2 hours we record. This is from math. Every 2 hours we record the data. Then we use the first 11 data to train the reservoir computing neural network. Then this is the prediction. This is the different genes. Then. Yeah, this is the prediction. They use the half data for training. So this is we call the multi-step prediction. It's not a multi-step ahead prediction. So then we are going to compare it with the traditional prediction method. They have so many different. I just checked the papers. I found 12 type represented method. I believe there are more. We don't have the manpower to compare, but we list, I think we list the most popular one, including neural network, LSTM. Okay, so this is a 12 method. It's just the prediction. Yeah, you use the 11 for training, 11 for prediction. It cannot give good result. The reason is, as mentioned, time point is too short. Too short. So far, most of the method, they depend on the statistical pattern. They need the number of the data, but we don't have. So this is the prediction for the Pacific. It's on the Pacific Ocean. It's I think yeah, it's Korea. I mean, it's right. So it's 21. It's a 400 dimension. So we record, we just take a picture from TV, television, then we make a prediction. So this is for the Australia in the Macas, and it's 2 years ago, the typhoon. We make a prediction. So this is for the Wind power is very difficult to predict. So we use the typical Tokyo electronic utility. So they had a wind power. They have a 155 location. They have a wind speed, devices to record the. Then we pick one for prediction. So it's a high dimensional data, 155 location. Then we predict one of them. So this is we use the train 100 hours, then predict the remaining 80 hours. Yeah. So it's a multi-step ahead prediction. So wind power is very difficult to predict. So we show this. I think it's half a year. We show it's I think it's a half a year, 6 months prediction. The red one is predict, and the blue one is real data. Yeah, this is another other traditional method, 12 method prediction. So we also predict the plankton. We use the 58 dimension for training and prediction. Yeah, okay. So this is for another, I pass them for temperature and many. So this is for the stock market. Okay. So this one is for the LA, 101. I think it's a 101 highway, we check their highway 101. They have official web service. So I checked them. I found that they have many locations. They have the meta. They can measure the traffic flow. So we make a prediction. This one is real. This one is a prediction. Yeah. So I almost finished this part. Here I want to also, I always use this graph, this picture to show why we can predict the future, only use a few time points. This is a one sample. It's a high dimensional sample, 100 times 100. So it's 10,000 variables. It's one sample, small samples, right? One sample. But clearly, we can find that they have a rich information for the dynamics. We know the time. Time is different. We know time information is here, right? So, which means that even small sample, high dimensional data, we can say they have a really rich dynamic information encoded. But we need a mathematical method to, decode this information. That is, I think, is the key we want to, to solve this problem. Yeah. So that's one. In other words, is this is the correlation information. They really can be changed into the dynamic information. So our method to show there is such a way. So we believe our human brain maybe is related to this equation. Our human brain, we have a high dimensional image, but our prediction, our decision is a very small number of neurons make the prediction. So we consider, human intelligence, they have a predictive power. Unlike AlphaGo, it just learn all the experience, all the behavior. But the human, we can make the predictive action. So this predictive action, we believe maybe is related to this equation. So this is my assumption. So I use this graph to show, human brain, we have an image, but we can from eye to brain make the decision. Decision is very low dimensional neuron. Only a small number of neurons make decision. So we believe they can change this high dimensional spatial information into the temporal future information, so we can make the correct prediction. So we believe, I mean, this is only hypothesis. I'm not sure if we can find this in the human brain. Yeah. So here is that if you are not familiar with the reservoir computing, I can also show you. Reservoir computing is different from traditional neural network. They use the external dynamics stimulates the network, so they can get the make the predict the future. Yeah, so it's very easy to train. Why? The reason is that they randomly, the connection neural network is randomly given. So so simple hardware, because you don't need to train. You just give the link, randomly give a link. But the problem is they require external dynamics. External dynamics, you can use the Luonan model. You can use any kind of model to make dynamics. So that is, but our work is we call the auto reservoir computing. It's different. We don't use any external dynamics. We just use the high dimensional data as our dynamics. Then we predict our Y. So it's different. We believe our method is much better because we don't need any artificial, external dynamics. We just use the internal dynamics. Yeah. So this is different. For the random, network, I recently read a paper. I think it's very interesting. I can share with you. He found the monkey. I mean, a primate. They can use the random neural network can represent the monkey the memory. Yeah. So I think reservoir computing is maybe. I mean, this is maybe we can say reservoir computing in the background, biological background. We can use this paper. So I use this paper to show for the maybe human and the animal. They also use the random connection, to achieve efficient training. Yeah. Okay. I have to finish the work. If you consider sample size, we use as mentioned, we use the embedding theory, and even small number data, they can be extended to very large number data. So equivalently. So yeah. This work is theoretical part is this paper is my formal postdoc. Now is a professor in the Suzhou University mathematics department. So we build the STI equation and make the theoretical which this paper also we get the award 2 years ago, but a mathematical award. Okay, then today I showed in this part, in this work, we auto reservoir computing. So it's also my formal postdoc, Dr. Liu and Dr. Chen. So for this one, we further we solve the STI equation, use the auto reservoir. And auto reservoir is different from auto encoder. I just mentioned, it's different. Auto encoder, there's no dynamics. Here is the dynamics. Y is the dynamics. Y is the temporal information. X is the spatial information. Yeah. So I think it's certainly they have many ways to solve STI equation. We just show one way to solve them, then we can predict. I think I have to finish the stop here, and if you have a question, I mean this is my colleagues. Oh, thank you very much.
Okay, wow, this is amazing. Okay, let me ask a really simple first question. Is there any computational package for this method is available now, or?
I think in this paper, I should give a package there.
Oh.
Maybe it's not so easy to use. You can try. I think they should give give data. They give prediction.
Nice. Yes, because I think because we have a bunch of data actually. We want to try to use your method. Let's
okay.
try.
Okay.
And if we have any question, we may contact you or your.
Certainly, we are happy to collaborate with with other people. I mean, including you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So there is a question from Jinsu Kim. Jinsu Kim, do you want to ask a question by yourself, or do you want to ask by me?
Of course, I can do by myself. Yeah. Thank you.
So, Luonan Jinsu Kim is
okay. I can see him.
From UC Irvine.
Yeah, this is Jinsu Kim. Thank you very much for this nice talk, Professor Chen. I have two questions. The first one is, I remember some slide that shows that a single variable delayed data can only predict the original attractors without model. And I'm curious why—
reconstruct. Yeah,
we reconstruct. Why only the attractors, not the original dynamics without a model? I'm just curious about it.
So that is, they have a few conditions, I should, I pass these conditions. I should give this condition for this one. Reconstruct map, we need 4 conditions. The one is the system is high dimensional, but attractor is, the steady state is constructed to low dimension. So this is the condition 1. I think most of our physical system, our biological system satisfy this condition. Okay. So the second one is all our variables are in the system or share the same attractor. So if we want to predict the U, I cannot use the other people's data because you are different system. We have to use the UR data, So all the observer data, have to be in the same system. This second one, and the share, exactly is a share the same attractor. Yeah. So your data may be share different attractor. Okay. Okay. The third one is because the theory is based on the determines the dynamic system. So the noise should be small. If you have a larger fluctuation, stochastics, it's not working. So we have to ensure our system have a deterministic rule. Random system is not predictable. It's not predictable. So you have to be, the noise has to. The fourth one is we need high dimensional data. So this one is a stock market issue. Why stock market is a short term? Because the stock price last year they contributed very little to the tomorrow stock price because the system changed quickly. A very short time they changed. This time vary. So it's only recent data they have. They can have a predictable power for tomorrow. Yeah. So we can only use the very short recent data for prediction. So that's why we call many system. They actually is we can only use the short-term data. Yeah, because the time vary. For the biology system, it's also time vary. It's highly time vary. Yeah. So I'm not sure you answered your question. You answer why we use the one variable. We can reconstruct the whole attractor, right? So they have to satisfy these conditions. So when that one variable should, you know, in mathematically we call it generic. Generic means there's no symmetry for this system. So which means that this the whole information can be reflected in this one variable. Eventually, you know, with the time eventually. So if this system, this variable is independent from whole other variable, certainly you cannot use this variable to reconstruct. For that case, as mentioned, it's not a generic. It's which means this system is a symmetry. They have symmetry. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. I also have a second question. I'm curious about what's the benefit of using neural network F when you are handling the STI equation?
No, this is one. I'm you know, where I mean, tell the truth. I mean, I'm not so clear to understand. You know, use linear map. Linear map is not correct. It's not accurate. It's you know, it's very obvious because it's a linear map, right? But so we want to change it on the nonlinear map. Nonlinear map, we use the neural network. So that is one reason. So somehow we consider a neural network is like the kernel method. You know, kernel method is similar. We don't want to use the original X. We use the fx. F is the kernel. We want to use the fx. You know, many kernel methods use the work in this way. So so we consider maybe we just leave the original X to the kernel space so that can be work better. So for that part, I mean, I'm not so you know, clear to understand. You know, reservoir computing and they have a similar same questions. I mean, same problem. Many people ask why reservoir computing is so efficient. They just use the fx, you know. So that is we don't know. They have recently they have a few papers. They gave the theoretical explanation. They show they just put the original data into high